The Looming Night, written by Francis Molino. A tale from Lost Stories Avenue.
It is done. After trials and tribulations over smeared schematics, the orchestration of man's ascension is at hand. Many times before, the deluded misers squandered progress over the murky swamps of innovation. Cast down your careless ambition, and be not set astray in this mad enterprise, they cried, as I unveiled the path to harnessing the unknown movers of the cosmos. A power since eternum remains unseen, yet its fingerprints grace the order of the stars. Contemporaries hired by my once-own benefactors have prematurely concluded the folly of my endeavor to supplicate the sinews of industry towards their own glory. No matter. Now I see the last pieces must be sewn together, as a mason wills the edifice to life. Here in my golden solitude aboard Station 204N, along the edge of the great nothing, I labor every infinitesimal calculation, fasten every bolt. Everything must be perfect, for if any misplacement is tolerated, the resulting cataclysm would be incomprehensible. I accomplish this despite the dripping veins delivering recycled water and waste and flashing lamps forecasting their demise. All is in place. As I pulled the last switch, I felt my heart skip and breath stop. All else was still as the gauges revealed no movement or portrayed any sign of achievement. Then it came, a bolt of bright light that forced the veiling of my eyes, despite my goggles, capable of reflecting the brightest of known stars. As it faded, I glanced upon a soft glow emanating from the once empty chamber. I tossed my goggles and raised my hand to the chamber. Cool tears flowed down my cheek as I gazed into a once never-known spark of creation. I returned to my console to survey my instruments. As I tapped the various gauges, which remained still, I pondered the condition of the instruments as I rechecked them all. They were in perfect order. Yet it was plain as day that no energy was originating from the light within the chamber, not a glimmer of any sparks which should pour forth energy greater than any sun can hope to unleash. I go over my calculations at a feverish pace. What was missing? What had I misplaced? By all reason, I should at least be reading some current from the chamber, yet it remained inert. I tossed my papers and tipped the table in a mad frenzy. Was all this nothing but a charlatan's magic trick? I retired to my hammock, hovering over an exhaust vent. Swaying back and forth, the endless rocks of a waking nightmare finally faded to the blissful black of empty dreams. I awoke covered in a cold sweat, with my heart attempting to force itself out of my chest with every breath. Under an unknown compulsion, I made my way to the office. As I drafted new designs for the chamber, I recalled unknown patterns and symbols from the vague, misshapen outlines of my dreams, which fell into place with a vexing logic. From these illustrations came new understandings of cosmic design, undiscovered by any scholar, conveying symmetry and form anathema to any known order of the universe. From this lucid providence, I returned to the lab with renewed vigor. Hours, days, and weeks passed with no mind to rest or food, as I labored to complete the new vessel in all its scientific glory. With every bolt and weld placed, I felt my body and mind give way piece by piece, as an offering to this new evolution of creation. Here I stood, in marvel, at the precipice of godhood itself. A light flashed on the control console in the lab with a message relayed from my former benefactors. It conveyed a message stating that armed escorts were forthcoming to retrieve the station and all materials inside. It was by their own vain grace they would allow me to leave the station without jettisoning my body into the vacuum of space. I slammed the console, nearly breaking it, along with a litany of curses in every conceivable tongue. I can no longer wait to complete the final calculations. With every passing moment, The lackeys get closer and closer to the station to impede my path to greatness. Not now. Not when I am so close. They will see. They will all see the error of their ways when blinded by the power of the cosmos, tamed into man's own hands. I rose from the console to begin preparations for the last test. It was here and now that I would cross the Rubicon and either triumph or fall into oblivion. I gazed one more time at the light held within the chamber, its cold radiance reaching into my body, bestowing unnatural vigor despite the creeping decay gnawing it into a husk equal to a fresh corpse. As I limped in my decrepit form towards the control panel, I gave one last look upon the sculpted masterpiece. An enlarged figure of a man draped in polished metals, hammered and welded to dwarf any demigod. I staggered across the buttons and switches. The nights have been long, and yet I held nothing back as the glory of immortality awaits. I pulled the last lever, and all the lights faded into darkness. Then, an orchestration equal to the birth of the cosmos illuminated the lab, with every piece completing its role. The light that had accompanied me on this journey remained in the chamber with no word since my last dream. However, I felt its gaze upon me like a taskmaster overseeing my every effort. I returned from my reflections to find the light had vanished from the chamber. All the machines then fell silent. I turned to face the new vessel with shaking hands and gritted teeth. As I approached the looming form, I raised my hand towards the breastplate, foolishly seeking some sort of pulse or life from it. Nothing, no sign of any transfer of power into the vessel. I beat the chest of the figure as I leaned into its still shell. Then by chance I raised my head to see its vacant eyes staring into my own. At first I smiled, but it vanished as quickly as it came. For within those eyes I saw nothing. They pierced my own eyes like daggers, and yet it seemed to stare past me, as if my very presence had committed a transgression. I slowly backed away in dismay. A rush of cool, sobering thoughts had entered my lungs and heart. Before I could scream in condemnation of my blasphemy, I suddenly felt myself hurled against the wall. I rose to find the creature moving its own legs as if like a child just learning to walk. My eyes focused on the adjacent corridor. If I could reach the control room, I might undo my atrocity by ejecting this module into the nearby star. The creature paused and gazed at its hands as it began mastering its steps. I hurried to the corridor while the thing remained distracted. As I entered the corridor, I heard the rattling of machinery as the pounding of footsteps nearly knocked me off my feet. I made it to the end of the module, and as I accessed the panel, I saw its blank eyes as the body flickered back and forth into shadow. For a moment it stood there again, gazing into my very soul with no warmth. As I pressed the button, the doors slammed shut, but not before the doors bulged from some impact. Had the creature crossed those few meters so quickly? The door shook with each impact. The barrier will not hold for long. I made my way to the control room with all haste, up and up through the various stairways with no functioning elevator to expedite my journey. With my lungs gasping for breath, I made it to the control room. I locked the doors behind me and began the sequence to cut off this abomination. As I lay in the coordinates for the module to enter the nearby star, I heard a voice through the intercom. Its words were of no human origin, with a tone and pitch of a screeching bellow. As the blood drained from my ears, I saw it through the security cameras. The beast was again staring at me through the camera with its cold, empty eyes. It stood before the doorway to the control room. Its sacrilegious chant continued, driving thoughts into my head like a chisel against stone. I saw its eyes hovering in the darkness over an empty city with twisted towers reaching into the stars like needles piercing the flesh of the night sky. The towers rose from the surface further into the stars like a great hand engulfing every star within its reach. I could not endure this torment for much longer as blood began to drip from my nose and eyes. With every measure of sanity I had left, I reached for the controls to detonate the station. By only the barest of margins, I assured the thing and my own destruction. As the countdown began, I fell to the floor with my back leaning against the console. As I looked, I saw the door being hammered away by the creature. Its hands emerged through gaping chasms within the door. Then its eyes drifted into view of mine through the wounds within the door. This wretched conjuring of mine remained still as its eyes ate away at my very soul. Then the telecom system stirred, and I heard its voice again through the radio. At first my daze from the torment had yet to subside, but then the remaining blood within me curled as the words being spoken held eerie familiarity. The beast was echoing the same instructions it had conveyed to me in that Faustian ritual I dared to call a dream once. I summoned every ounce of strength left to reach for the telecom system before its cries of doom reached innocent ears, and yet I could no longer even lift my arm above my shoulders. My eyes became like stone and fell shut like the gates of Jericho before a brief flash.
This has been The Looming Night, written by Francis Molino, a tale from Lost Stories Avenue. Please subscribe to receive updates on our latest productions. We hope you've enjoyed our broadcast.